Hello and welcome to the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter, and I have been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for On SI every single day since August 2019, and we are continuing to move forward through another offseason together. As always, you can find our 24/7, 100% free, boots on the ground coverage of the Jacksonville Jaguars every single day on social media such as Facebook and Twitter at Jaguars on SI, and you can also find us at www.si.com/NFL/Jaguars. Welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. Today we are going to talk about how Jacksonville Jaguars general manager James Gladstone just continues to keep adding more and more allies from the Los Angeles Rams front office to the Jaguars. Now, when the Jaguars moved on from, director of college scouting Michael Davis and assistant general manager Ethan Waugh, amongst some others from the Trent Baalke era, it was always very clear the reason why. The reason why was because the Jaguars regime was moving past the old regime. The draft was now over, so they no longer needed to lean on the scouting department of the last regime after Gladstone has started just days before the NFL scouting combine. He needed those scouts, those executives, those with knowledge of the Jaguars process and their scouting system and of their roster to help get them through free agency and the draft. But it was always very clear that once the draft was over, the Jaguars would be remaking the front office in their own image, in Gladstone's own image. And it certainly seems right now like Gladstone has taken the, I'd say, expected route, but also beneficial route of plucking from the place he just came from, the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Rams front office has had absolute superstars in there in recent years. I mean, Brad Holmes comes from there. Gladstone's obviously, so that's two GMs right off the bat who have been hired from the Los Angeles Rams. But the big reason, the Rams have had such a talented front office is because of the way Les Snead develops guys, because of their draft process, and the fact that he brings in experienced guys to serve high-level roles. Now, the Jaguars hired a senior NFL personnel executive earlier in the week in Brian Zanders, who, former NFL general manager of the Denver Broncos, has been around the block quite a few times, offers a lot of experience to help a guy like Gladstone. But he isn't the only addition the Jaguars and Gladstone have made from the Los Angeles Rams. Of course, this even goes back to the coaching staff search. When the Jaguars, Nick Shieldhouse, a lot of people expected him to be a front runner for the offensive coordinator job. They interviewed Aaron Cromer's son, I believe Zach Cromer, for the offensive line position. So they very clearly want to replicate a lot of, I wouldn't say who the Rams are and what they do, but people who understand, what that process kind of looks like as they make it in their own image. So Brian Zanders was not the only front office hire. The Jaguars also hired Brian Hill, one of the Rams' top scouts. And last night, Aaron Wilson, reported that the Jaguars would be hiring J.W. Jordan, who's the Rams' director of draft management. These are big hires. There can be no other way, to undersell it. The last Jaguars regime, I thought Ethan Waugh was a really quality hire. I thought Tom Gamble, it really just seemed like, he was obviously a close confidant, friend, and lieutenant of Trent Baalke. Not sure how much value he really added. So outside of Waugh, it didn't seem like the Jaguars were doing enough to really flesh out their scouting process and develop the front office. Shad Khan, I don't remember the exact wordage that he used, but he said something along the lines of they needed to add more brain power to the front office. And he said that after they hired Doug Peterson in 2022. So 2022 went by, 2023 went by, 2024 went by. Only real addition was Waugh and the coming and going of Tom Gamble, who was on and off with the franchise over the last several years. Not really significant additions, just in terms of growing their process and developing people and finding, really, those next generation of front office stars. I mean, Jeep Chris, another example as a pro scout, solid scout by, everybody's measures, but he's an NFL lifer. He's an older guy. It's like the Moneyball scene, where it seems like James Gladstone is hiring the Jonah Hills, etc. And I know it's Paul DePasta. And the last regime kind of focused on those old school scouts, the guys who were telling Billy Bean, like, hey, he lacks confidence. It's, that timeless scene. So I think the Jaguars are making smart additions to the front office. I think doing anything they can to bring some of the Rams process over is a smart thing for multiple reasons. One, of course, is that the Rams have been one of the best franchises in the NFL for the last decade. Their scouting process is immaculate. The way they have hit on day 2 and day 3 picks and undrafted free agents, and the way they have built one of the NFL's best rosters despite rarely having first-round picks to use, they deserve their flowers. They've been, for my money, the best scouting department in the NFL for the last several years. So bringing anybody from that ecosystem, God, I had ecosystem children in my brain. Bringing anybody from that sphere is a positive addition to me. On top of that, you're getting people who Gladstone knows, people who he trusts, people who he has seen do the work in the bunker with him before, in past years. And people who understand Gladstone, he understands them. They know what he's looking for. They know his process. They know what he's trying to build in Jacksonville. Add the analytics guy, Jake Tamay, to the list. And it's just another Rams guy that they have. This front office is becoming very much so Rams East. And to me, that's a positive and much needed thing. I think the Jaguars have needed to reset their scouting department and front office philosophy for quite some time. And it certainly appears they have done that under James Gladstone. I think that has been made very abundantly clear throughout his tenure so far, that these are not, your grandma's Jaguars in terms of the front office. Things are very different. Things are not going to be operated, as they were. And there's a new standard in Jacksonville. So I think these signings are all very positive things for the Jaguars. We'll see exactly what roles and titles these guys have. Who knows if he'll have an assistant GM or anything like that. But the fact that the Jaguars are getting their guys in place, I think, should mean for an even more impressive offseason next year. I truly believe that. So thank you guys for listening to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. Please don't forget to subscribe, download, review, whatever you got to do on the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also find all of our videos on YouTube at Sports Videos on SI. We got some stuff up from rookie minicamp. Please make sure you check it out.